What if falling in love could actually drift you further into poverty?
That's the heartbreaking reality at the center of 1974's Claudine, where one woman's chance at happiness threatens the very, albeit meager, benefits keeping her children alive. This movie asks one uncomfortable question after another. If the system punishes people for improving their lives, how are they ever supposed to escape poverty?
This film is not toxic and it is not dramatic.
Yes. You know, it's just the way we characterize some of these movies is wild sometimes. I recognize times do change, and I'm, probably one of the old people now. And
you
so
definitely are.
so that changes how I view things because, I have a different set of experiences than the young folks now, many of whom tend to label every single situation as being toxic. But you guys said you wanted to see this movie discussed, and that is exactly what we're going to do. So Claudine was released in 1974, which was just an amazing year, actually. And it arrived during a period of intense public debate over poverty, welfare policy, race, and the challenges facing urban America. Because you have to think about it, by the 70s, this is when a lot of the Great Migration had already taken place. And now you have people who, Black folks who are from the South, who are now living in these big metro areas in Western cities and in New York and in Chicago and Detroit and, other places. And, inner city poverty is rough like poverty anywhere else. And so that's one of the things that's being focused on in this film. And so the unique thing about this movie is rather than portraying its main character, Claudine, as lazy or irresponsible, the film represents Claudine as this extraordinarily hardworking mother who is simply trying to provide stability for her 6 children while she navigates this system, the welfare system, which is complicated with these rules and unintended consequences. Now, some people would say the consequences are unintended. I personally think they were intended and they worked exactly as designed, meaning like the things such as not having anything that's too nice, not having any evidence of a man being around. All of these other things were intended to shape and have the outcomes that they had. Now, maybe the people who were helping to enforce those things didn't fully understand the system that they were working and the outcomes it would produce. But certainly the people who designed it did. At least that's my opinion. So, but one of the other things it did is it humanized this situation for people who, especially, this might not have been their reality. So it gave them an opportunity to see, because I think it's easy to sit high and judge, looking down your nose at folks who simply their only quote sin is being born into poverty or being in poverty for whatever reason. And this propensity to blaming people for their condition.
It was 1974, only a decade after the Civil Rights Act, the first one was passed. Mm-hmm. So you got to have that context as well.
Yes. So the cast, the wonderful Diane Carroll plays Claudine. And we also get James Earl Jones playing Rupert, or Roop, he's called for short in the movie. We also have Lawrence Hilton Jacobs as Charles, who's one of the eldest of Claudine's children, right? And Lawrence Hilton Jacobs, we just talked about him because we just covered the movie COOLEY High that a lot of you didn't actually see. We covered it on the main channel.
Flop.
That video flopped, and I don't like it because so many people said they wanted to see it and said they loved it, and we did it and we put our hearts into it, and not that many people saw it. So instead of blaming y'all, I'm gonna blame YouTube. But now because you're watching this video, to go to the link in the comments so that you can watch COOLEY High if you didn't see us cover COOLEY High, the video that we did on it. So at any rate, there are other people who show up in the film as well, but these are the main names you probably know. In addition, we also have Roxy Roker, who you may remember as Helen on The Jeffersons, and also the mama of Lenny Kravitz, and Lisa Bonet's ex-mother-in-law. And
does she have anything
Zoe
to do with the
Kravitz's
meteorologist?
grandma. Oh, and that's her cousin, right? Al Roker from the Today Show is Roxy Roker's, I think, cousin. Ooh. Yes. So look at how all these people who we know or who are famous are connected. Anyway, but Claudine is an amazing movie with a wonderful soundtrack, and we just got to talk about Claudine.
I'm Heit.
And I'm Cheri.
And you've discovered Axiom Amnesia.
We want to thank all of the supporters who helped to make this video possible. If you want your name to appear alongside these contributors, make a one-time donation via Cash App, or you can head on over to patreon.com/axiomamnesia to enjoy all of the benefits of becoming a monthly subscriber. The co-executive producers of this video are King James, Makila H., and Kelvin Pollard, who requested this film through Axiom Amnesia's Deep Dive on Demand program that we'll tell you more about later. So, the film opens with images of Claudine and video of her walking down the street with all of her children. She's got 6 kids. And Gladys Knight, it might have been Gladys Knight and the Pips, but I think it's Gladys Knight's voice. Gladys Knight and the Pips, because I didn't remember if it was by the time she was solo or not. But anyway.
No, so the soundtrack is Gladys Knight and the Pips.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So that's, but we hear Gladys Knight's voice, but it's Gladys Knight and the Pips. Singing a song, and it's all of these songs. Was the entire soundtrack done by
Curtis Mayfield?
Yes.
And he composed the music. He did the score for the film.
Just amazing. It just is amazing. Amazing.
Curtis Mayfield.
You know, so Claudine, she's rushed. So we see the kind of beginnings of her day. You know, she's walking down the street with all 6 of these kids. She's rushing to catch the bus. When she gets on the bus, she's sitting there with these other women who we later learn are all domestics that are taking the bus to the nice area of town, right? So Claudine is talking to the other women on the way to work, and she's complaining about her ailments. She got headaches and whatever. And the women basically are joking that, look, Claudine, you need some D. And if you don't know what type of D we talking about, it's not the vitamin D, but it is, you know, we just did a video, in fact, about what good D will do is the title of that video where we discussed the movie.
This is 1974. People think they are being so progressive when they're saying these things in 2024. You know what I'm saying? Like, and when you think about it, it wasn't really like that for those, 5 decades since then. Not that straightforward.
Yeah, I mean, look, the D has been around since the dawn of time. Okay, y'all. And that video I was talking about was where we were talking about Deliver Us from Eva. We did a deep dive on that. We will link that in the description. But the title of the video is What Good D Will Do. And this is what the women are telling her. Look, you got a headache. You got all these ailments because you haven't been getting and one lady said, vitamins is what she says. But anyway, so she takes this bus to the area where work is. And, all the women get off like at the same stop or whatever. And, so you realize that this is just their daily routine. Another thing that Claudine says while she's on the bus is she's like, well, because she knows that basically they're like, you need a man. And she's like, I can't because I got all these kids. And so that is the first that we hear from her. We see that she loves her children.
Come on, Kevin Samuels.
Shut up. She loves her children and she's there for them. And she realizes that, her pursuing a relationship in this moment, it doesn't feel even possible for her. So when she's at work, but it's not long, right? She put that out into the universe and said no, but the universe said yes.
She said the first DIC, that's what I'm going to get.
And so she's at the house as this domestic worker, right, at the house. And she encounters James Earl Jones' character, Rupert, or Roop, right? He is a garbage man. He is out there and he's all sweaty.
How are you today?
Just fine. How are you?
And, so here's the thing. This movie was made in 1974. And, by the time I learned of James Earl Jones, first time I never saw him. I heard his voice, as Darth Vader in the Star Wars movie franchise, the original franchise back from the, 70s and 80s. And then later I'm seeing James Earl Jones like as an old man. So I never saw him even as young-ish before, so because I didn't see the movie Claudine until I was a teen at least, but practically grown.
But when did you see Roots? He was in Roots.
Oh yeah, I forgot about him in Roots. Okay, yes. Okay, so I had seen him. I seen him in Roots because I seen Roots since I was a young kid when I saw Roots. I saw Roots practically from when it came out. I mean, because I
You definitely didn't see it on tape.
I saw, well, not the first time, no, but my granddaddy had recorded Roots.
Oh, okay.
And we would watch Roots on VHS, me and my cousin, my one of my favorite cousins. And we used to watch Roots like it was nothing. We all, and even now we pull out Roots and watch Roots. We want to cover Roots actually. And I just want to point that out. I'll put a link to support and becoming a co-executive producer so that we can actually create Roots, because we need the support to do things like these series, stuff that's long and will take in a lot of investment of time, and also things that may not be as popular, so we can talk about the stuff that y'all want to talk about and that we also want to talk about. So if you want to support Roots, you can hit the link up in the description for that. So he is this garbage man, but he's like supposed to be looking all sexy, and James Earl Jones, he got them light colored eyes and that deep voice, and he's over there like, hello, with his deep voice. So she sees him, she likes what she sees, and he's catching her eye, but she also is like trying not to engage, because at the end of the day, she's got a complicated life and she ain't trying to take on no man, but she does run out with some garbage, of like some fruit peel or whatever at the end of the, right when he's about to take off, like, hey, so she wants to go and flirt with him and then be able to go back inside. But he actually goes and asks her out.
He's like, Claudine, I want to hit them skins.
But she says no when he asks her out. So he asks her, though, if she's on the welfare and if she's reporting that income, because I know they don't know you out here working, and he's joking with her or whatever. He's like, I'd hate to have to report you. And so she sees him after this, after she said no, that was his response, but he's joking with her. And she sees him basically stand up to her white boss. And then she decides to go out with him, right? Because the boss is like, can you come and get this garbage
she ran
from
after
up
the
here?
Trash truck.
Mm-hmm. And he was like, you got to bring it to the curb. I'm not coming over to get that, And so when she saw him stand up to the white boss, then she was like, okay, I'll go out with you. And so then he's like, well, I'll come by and, pick you up at your house or whatever for the date. And the date was like that night. Like he was like, I want to take you out tonight. Look, ladies, if you agree to go on a date with a man who, now, mind you, he's not a complete stranger. She's seen him before. He's delivered, not delivered, but picked up the garbage. So he's somebody that she's seen. He's not a complete stranger. But do y'all let somebody come by and pick you up at your house in 2026 or nah? In 1974, Claudine said, just, meet me in my house, give you the address and everything. So Roop arrives at Claudine's apartment for the date. Now, one of Claudine's daughters answers and she's like, well, Claudine ain't home. And he's like, well, can you let me in? And she's like, no, I can't let you in, because we all know if you were left home by yourself, you ain't even supposed to open the door. But anyway, definitely not supposed to let somebody in to the house. Talk about, he asked, can I come in and wait? And she's like, mama said, don't let nobody in while she ain't home. So Roop, though, does go back to his car and he falls asleep, and he is waiting for Claudine outside in his convertible vehicle. Now I'm like, you must have really wanted that bad, because he didn't just go home. He waited for her. Now she's running late because life is complicated. She got to take public transportation, bring a little food home, stop at the store. All of the complications of being a mother.
All of the stuff you should have had your daughters and your son doing, but
bruh. Okay. So maybe
that's how it was.
So she is doing this. And then she sees him. She's like, oh, maybe we need to reschedule or something like that. And he's like, no, I done waited, I done waited for the stuff. So I'm, we going out. So then the kids are all over the place at the house. They got a bunch of needs, mama, and not
that I've, experienced any of this or have any experience with this, but I'm sure many men have been in a situation like this, just waiting around for the woman to deal with these children that she have.
Right. So, but that's her life, but he's seeing all this ruckus and whatnot.
He's waiting them out.
He's just waiting it out. That's how bad he wanted. He been watching Claudine for a while and whatever. So her older son, Charles, that's the one played by Lawrence Hilton Jacobs or whatever. He was Cochise in COOLEY High, as we mentioned, linked in the description. And her daughter, she has an older daughter that is like a teen, Charlene. Charlene is like, well, I'm going out on a date. She's like, no, you ain't going nowhere or whatever. And Charlene is mad and she's like, I ain't nothing but a babysitter, and stuff like that. So she's parentified. Charlene is not the oldest one. The oldest one is Charles, who's the boy. Mm-hmm. But Charlene got to do the babysitting.
You could have a boy in charge of your children if you want.
Well, I mean, I'm not arguing for that. I'm just saying what seemed unfair to Charlene.
Yeah.
So she's like, you're just worried I'll get pregnant. You don't say, because she was talking about, going out and doing whatever. So in the meantime, Roop is still trying to smash, and he's like, well, I'm still going to take you out or whatever. And he tells the kids, mama is going on a date, So Charlene says that to her mama, because she's still pissed. She's like, well, don't come home pregnant, mama. And I'm like, man, these kids are like embarrassing her and stuff. And she can't even do that. So Roop is like, look, you could come over to my house and take a shower because it ain't no hot water. I'm thinking Roop already knew how to be slick about it. So Claudine agrees because, so y'all, is no hot water still like a thing for people, just generally speaking? Maybe not if you live, I don't know.
If you live over here and Cheri runs the water out.
I can't help it sometimes.
See? So
okay,
ain't no hot water.
But like as a, thing like you routinely, run out of hot water.
I don't know. So was it like
to,
a build? Maybe it's just, you got to look at the whole history of how, buildings and stuff.
You
were built.
definitely
So,
didn't have your own hot water heater back then, probably. Whereas like now in apartments, you likely have your own hot water heater. So at least other people outside of the apartment's not affecting you. But in the apartment, if you got a lot of people, like I remember growing up, there were 4 kids and 2 parents. And if you were late in the succession of getting in that shower, then that water gonna be lukewarm. So this is what she was like. It's no more hot water for me to take my shower. So that's why she agrees to go to Roop. Now in Roop's building, Roop live in a building with a lot of women of the night. And so as soon as she comes in Roop's apartment, which looks like a little bachelor pad. I mean, it's not terrible, but a mouse runs across the floor as soon as they walk in, and she's like, oh, a mouse, So he goes and he scrubs out the tub and push dish soap in there for her to get some bubble. You want bubbles? This ain't bubble bath. He put the dish soap in there for the bubbles. Who do that?
See,
a lot of people do
now
that.
We have our privilege, your privilege showing.
What you mean?
What we used.
Okay, well then I'm not going to criticize
poor.
it. I'm not going to criticize it then. Yeah. So
that's why I used to like. Oh, put that. We about to have a bubble bath,
bro. What?
Yeah, put some dish soap up in there.
Okay. Well then I'll give the flip side of that. When we didn't waste it all out, the bubble bath, you'd usually get it like at holidays. It might be a stocking stuffer. And then sometimes you could beg, we could beg our mom to buy the bubble bath. And it was like this big thing about the size of a large size of shampoo. We didn't get the fancy bubble baths and the small thing. It was like a big, it was economy
that's
bubble bath.
Overspending.
Well, it was economy bubble bath.
Yeah,
and then
but it probably cost more than dish
we
soap.
would be, it did. I'm sure it did. I mean, because the big thing was probably, I don't know, $4 or $5 or something.
But thanks to the branding and marketing of Dove, if it's good for the ducks, it's good for the humans.
But we didn't, Dawn, you mean. Dawn.
What did I say?
Dawn, you said Dove. Dawn dish detergent is good for the ducks. But I mean, it's probably just fine. But I was just thinking like dish detergent on your, on your lady bits right. Might not be, that might burn. I don't know. But anyway, so why are you laughing at me?
She had a bubble bath. No.
Because, okay, so he put the
They only did that so we wouldn't see her in the movie.
Okay, y'all, but we still see her in the, okay. So she still has some nudity in the movie because, stuff is peeking out from behind the bubbles. And I'm like, the way you said,
What? I don't like Diane Carroll, so
yes,
we're
you
not
do.
there.
Stop lying.
No, I'm serious.
Why you don't like Diane Carroll? She was just okay. Okay, all right. Diane Carroll didn't do it. Well, who did it for you back then?
You know her, the one who got fisted.
Shut up! You can't say
yes,
that on
I can.
Video.
Somebody.
Okay.
Jane Kennedy got fisted, y'all, and I didn't know about this until Cheri told me.
Okay.
But I like Jane Kennedy.
Let me tell you why I know this. Because this isn't a thing that, a woman of civil society just knows. Okay. I only know this because
Oh, hold up. Creeper alert. Grooming alert.
Our bus driver, when I was in the 7th grade, would be talking to us and telling us all sorts of stuff. And now I only knew Jane Kennedy as okay, there was this movie in the 80s, Body and Soul, that used to always run on HBO. And then I knew Jane Kennedy because she was the teacher of Arnold on Different Strokes, a sitcom for those of you who are really young, a sitcom starring Gary Coleman back in the 80s. Okay. So that was the only reason I knew who Jane Kennedy was. I didn't know her beyond that. But yeah, he was like, oh yeah, Jane Kennedy, let me tell y'all, you don't know about Jane Kennedy, but I know. And he was like, there's a tape going around. Now, mind you, this is at the point when the tape would have been going around, it's circulating in the 80s. So like you would have had to have a camcorder, the ability to record yourself in your personal business, because it was her with Leon Isaac Kennedy, who was her husband at the time. Why am I saying this in the Claudine video? Oh my gosh, we have just gone too far, but I'm already there, so I might as well finish. So, but yeah, this is what was going on.
And I looked it up and I synced it on one of those sites, but I can't find it anymore.
Bruh. So that's
no disrespect to Jane Kennedy. This is just
what happened though was he was like, well, and then the way he described it, he did not use that word that Heit used. He said, well, and her husband, was putting his fingers in places, and he said, and she swallowed up his whole hand. That was how he put it.
What in the world?
Let me just hop in here and remind you that, as many of you know, changes on this platform have pushed us toward a more viewer-funded model. If you would like to help keep our channels going, there are a few easy ways you can support. You can become a member and unlock over 100 exclusive videos plus additional member perks. You can become an executive producer or co-executive producer on an upcoming video through Deep Dive On Demand, starting at just $10, just like the co-executive producers of this video. You'll get your name on screen and a shout out during the video, or you can pick up some merch to represent the community. Also, don't forget to join our mailing list so you never miss a video across any of our channels. Also, if you are looking for something to watch after this, check out our Bedtime Binge playlist. It's linked below. And it's full of videos that you may have missed, especially lately because we just haven't been getting any play from the YouTube folks and algorithm. You'll find links to all of these options in the description. And thank you so much for watching. Thank you for being here. And thanks for always helping us to keep these deep dives coming. The video is continuing, but we just wanted to say thanks. And we were like, ah, oh my God, look, because we're at that age where you're kind of, like you're in 7th grade, what's up, you're liking boys at this point, like you already know the birds and the bees, but at the same time, but anyway, yeah, the bus driver would be saying stuff like, now, I don't know. I'll leave that where it is, but that was what he said. And we were like, oh, man, really? Oh, oh, whatnot. So that's what the bus driver who took us to school every day.
And that's how I know about Jane Kennedy's tape.
It's because I told you, because story. My 7th grade bus driver told me. I can't have y'all thinking I was just somehow I just knew about this video of Jane Kennedy. No. That's how I found out. Yeah. So
I just had to verify because it was like, no way, back in them days.
You were like, let me go and see. And it turns out that it was true. So I don't think I had seen that video when you said that you had seen it. Anyway, I don't think.
Yeah. So Diane Carroll wasn't my thing.
But you liked Jane Kennedy. Okay. That's how we took that big excursion. So he tries to help her, though, out of her clothes as she goes into the bathroom, because he ran the water for her, put the dish soap in there and all that. And I'm like, Roop, like, let the woman get the day's grime off of her so she can, but he don't care. He
let me help you out before she fall asleep.
Let me help you out your clothes. So that's basically what happens, but while he's out of the bathroom, he's out there setting a mouse trap for the rodent problem in his apartment. And Curtis Mayfield's "The Making of You," sung by Gladys Knight, is what's playing in this moment.
No.
No, only because I love Gladys.
I do too, but "The Makings of You" is one of the greatest songs ever, but Curtis Mayfield's version. That's it.
It just don't do it. Heit is this way. He only likes certain versions of certain songs. That's gonna be it. So he tried to wait for her and whatever. He lays down. He closes his eyes. He take a little mini nap while she's in the tub. And they're both falling asleep. She fell asleep in the tub because she done had this long day. He fell asleep because this is all happening after both of them have put in a full 8-hour work day, or maybe even longer. And so he goes to check on her in the bathroom and he sees she's fallen asleep. So mind you, he's standing up over her. The bathroom door was locked. This is back in the day when you could just, put a credit card or something. He uses, I think it's his work ID, to jimmy the lock open on the bathroom, and then he goes and he's standing over her. And she's, in the tub, which means you ain't got no clothes on. And, then he wakes her up and whatever. But I'm like, bro, you was just determined to see this woman without no clothes on before she had authorized it. But anyway, she later calls home to check on her kids and whatever. And he's like, look, we can't go out to dinner. Let me just get some carry out. So he done brought a big old bucket of chicken. And if you know about a bucket of chicken from way back in the day, like that was like an amazing thing to be, my parents would get that bucket at KFC. It was Kentucky Fried Chicken back then.
I never had a bucket of chicken.
You never seen a brown bucket of chicken?
No.
That's so wild.
Never had one.
Yeah.
Did Popeyes used to have a bucket? No,
Popeyes always had
boxes.
Yeah. They never had buckets. But Kentucky Fried Chicken but maybe they brought the bucket back at Kentucky Fried Chicken.
So you know how it is. Where I'm from, we talk about chicken before.
Yes.
I'm from this place in Louisiana. Place known for fried chicken. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Tell them how many people you seen at KFC there.
None. KFC was empty. They were going to put KFC out of business. KFC was right up the street from, it was Churches on that little strip as well. And Popeyes get business. Popeyes and Churches get business. KFC there was like a ghost town.
Yeah, we went there once because nothing was open, and they were like, "We ain't got no chicken."
Bruh, this is
they ain't even ordering
why
chicken.
Y'all closed.
This must be what's the mattress company? The same mattress conspiracy
mattress
thing.
firm, or one of them type of places.
Like, what are you doing if you don't got chicken?
Yes, so that's that's what happens or whatever. So he bought the bucket of chicken and they're eating and whatever, and then he's asking her, about her life. He like, how you wind up with 6 kids, and she is talking about how, in the process of the conversation, she gets $30 a piece for her 6, for each of her 6 kids. So we can just do the quick math. That's only $180 for 6 kids in 1974. So what is that inflation corrected amount?
Okay, let's see. One thing I do think are these inflation calculators are grossly underestimated. So I think the numbers aren't that are necessarily close to what things actually cost. So it's about $1,200.
Okay,
they claim.
So she gets $1,200 a month.
13. Let's go to 13.
Okay, $1,300 a month for 6 kids.
Yeah.
6 kids gonna eat more than $1,300 a month, I would imagine. But maybe that's just the cash money. Maybe she was also getting some stamps on top of that. But she
did
said,
they mention buying food
yeah,
stamps
I think
or
they
something?
did. But she was talking about, so that's the cash that has, it wasn't enough for those kids back then. And she was jumping through all of those hoops.
Yeah.
It definitely ain't enough, even corrected, for 6 children to be, reasonably comfortable and fed and housed. That's just not enough money.
Mm-hmm.
And she's working a job and she has to, right? And she's underreporting that work because she doesn't have enough money. What they want is her not to be working and only collecting that $1,300 a month for her 6 kids. And she and 6 kids, 7 people are supposed to be able to make it off of $1,300 a month. That's crazy. But anyway, when Roop is asking her this stuff, she's offended like anybody would be, because he's like, well, how you wind up with 6 kids. And she's like, I don't have to explain that to nobody. In my best Diane Carroll voice. And she's like, she had 2 marriages and 2 almost marriages. So she done had 4 men and she's gotten 6 kids from these relationships that she had. And, when you think about it, like, she tried to do things the quote right way. It just didn't work out. She doesn't explain the fine details of exactly what happened with any or all of these men, but life can be complicated. And in the end of the day, she was left holding the bag for these kids. So then he admits, Roop does, that he has 2. I got 2 boys in Ohio with his first wife and a little girl with his second wife. So you over here asking her questions about her scenario, and you got 3 kids and you ain't living in the place where none of them are. And so she says to him, do you ever see your kids? And of course, then they talk about the stereotypes, because one thing I think is really good is how their quips back and forth with one another when they touch a sensitive issue. Then they have this sarcasm that they do where they're kind of discussing the stereotypes about Black people.
But the way I think that public discourse has kind of changed personal conversation is that nowadays you can't even do this. Once he says how you end up with 6 kids, then it's just over and it's a big argument and you might as well just, separate.
She's not going to forgive that enough for them to date. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Go to the comments. What's your opinion on that? Like, do you think that this is something that folks can discuss?
Yeah,
or do you think even, is the man even outraged enough to ask the question?
I think people, I don't know, because I think that from the comments and stuff, people don't like the amount of grace I seem to give when we're talking about these things.
Go further
just
with
things
that.
in general. No, when I don't know, I can't come up with a specific example right now, but when I talk about, somebody said or did something. And
you're not being hard enough on them. Because
yeah,
this
always.
Is
Yeah. So I think that's kind of an indicator of where
people's minds
are
are with it.
I guess tangentially, I guess.
But she tells him, just like what you said, she's like, well, I think we're wrong for each other. And he says, I think we're perfect for one another. He says, look, we don't have any gross inequalities.
Bruh.
And, he won out because they boned that night. She went and gave him some. So then in the middle of them laid up in the bed, the mouse trap goes off. And she interrupts him getting cozy with her, or maybe they didn't actually do it yet at that point, but he was about to do it. But anyway, she interrupts the about to happen doodly do. For him, she's like, well, you got to go get it. And he like, it ain't going nowhere, basically. But she wants him to go, get the trap and get the thing out of the trap. So they're laying there in the bed and they're talking to each other. Why the kids done called the house?
But hold up, you missed the spot.
Oh, go ahead. If you've ever watched one of our videos and said, y'all need to cover this movie next, this is your chance to make it happen. There are 2 ways to participate in our Deep Dive on Demand program. As a sole executive producer, you'll receive exclusive on-screen executive producer credit, a shout out during the video, and best of all, you can choose any movie you'd like us to cover. As a co-executive producer, you'll also receive on-screen credit and a shout out, but you'll share the credit with other co-executive producers and you'll choose from our select list of films. Also, for a limited time, we are offering 2 special bundles. Our co-executive producer bundle, including 3 co-executive producer credits for just $25, a savings of $5 since they're regular $10 each, or choose our executive producer bundle for just $75 and receive everything included with the sole executive producer credit, plus you're going to get 3 co-executive producer credits at the same time. That's a $30 added value. This is a fun way to support the channel, get your name in our videos, and help shape what we cover next. You'll find links to all of the producer options and bundles in the description below.
So he got the rat out of there, and he came back and he was gonna fist her with that hand without washing it.
Stop saying that in this video.
She said, "Did you wash your hands?" He's like, "Oh." He was gonna rub all on her with that.
Yuck, with the dead mouse hand. Just yuck. So talking about, so the kids they laying in the bed after this, and the kids done called, and I'm like, and it just made me feel.
What?
It made me feel bad for when my mama would be at work and then we were kids and then we would be calling. Not that she was doing this during work hours, obviously, but that just the way the children unknowingly just fully harass their parents. Mm-hmm. She didn't get a break for them kids. But anyway, they're calling talking about one of them is playing with himself in the bathroom. And so she got to go down the logic of, well, how do you know that's what he's doing in there? And so he leaves the phone off the hook, after they hang up with the kids, because he's like, I don't want to be interrupted. I'm trying to get this stuff. And she puts the phone back on the hook. And I just loved that gesture because in the end, she's sick of them kids. She want to just be held by this man and do whatever and release the tensions of the day. But she still is a mother and she recognizes that my kids got to be able to reach me if something happened. And that just spoke volumes, how she just reached over and put that phone back on the hook, because she is making herself available.
Yeah,
she was not the mother who said, I don't care what happens.
Yeah, but it's just not about her. He was trying to cut the kids off.
Yeah, he was.
So he's like, I don't want to be bothered by those kids.
Well, and she said it I think she said it to them on the phone, like, now look, I'm over here, and I'm trying to get some D. Leave me alone. I think that so clearly she felt that way, like, I'm getting sick of them, but she understood she could not cut off the communication.
Right, but he can't. He don't care nothing about them kids.
In this moment, he was like, look, I'm trying to get it.
Don't nobody want to hear from them kids.
So the phone rings again, and it's a woman. And she's asking for Roop, but she runs interference for him or whatever. But when she hangs up the phone, she want to know who the woman is. Like, girl, you just got here tonight and you want to be, So the next morning, she has to do like the walk of shame because she's going back home in the morning in the wee hours, and she's concerned about the neighbors. The neighbors are going to see me walking in here all times of the night, And of course, the gossips, when they see your business, they're going to be like, well, she left them kids and didn't, So people know your business, and this is something that I was pointing out. They know your business because they looking and watching. But like in the world of cameras and Ring cameras and all of that stuff, and how what your neighbors are doing in the comings and goings, because nowadays it just trips your it trips your camera, so you're able to see. You kind of know what their pattern is, and it makes people, I think, a little bit more nosy than they would otherwise be. But he takes her back home and stuff like that. And then they agree that they're just going to keep seeing each other. And when it's over, it's just over, right? We're not trying to build anything off of this or whatever, because there's nothing else. And they both agree there's nothing else. But we know as the audience that they are feeling each other. So they talk about how, look, when we're going to be able to see each other again, they got busy lives and stuff like that. And then when she comes home, her kids are giving her a hard time because she hadn't been there and whatnot. And later, Roop comes over. He is waiting for Claudine, and he gives the kids ice cream money. They, because one of the younger ones, they knew their mama didn't have ice cream money, but they knew when this man was over here that, like, look, we can maybe finagle some ice cream money up out of him, and they did. But Charles, the eldest boy, doesn't want ice cream money from Marshall. So he refuses anything. I say Marshall because Roop's last name is Marshall. He doesn't want anything from Roop, and he's adversarial to Roop. Why? Because he is the man of the house, and Roop is another man who's coming in and throwing his weight around, and he can't, I just think it's a testosterone thing. What do you think?
No, I think he just don't want this new man. So like with the little kids, they don't really know about relationships and stuff, and they don't care about, a man trying to get with their mama in the same way that a grown man, he's like 17, right?
Yeah.
A grown man had his new man coming and trying to smash his mama.
Yeah. And he's like, he threatens Roop. He's like, basically for every tear she cry, you gonna lose a pint of blood. Now, I don't know that he could deliver on that.
He said a quart.
Oh, was it a quart? Oh, I thought it was a pint. I noted a pint, but whatever amount, it was too much. He gave him an outright physical bodily harm threat. So Roop talks to his coworker at work, and he's like, well, she got 6 kids. And his coworker was like, 6 kids. And Roop is telling him, like, look, I had it with these young women trying to wine and dine them and stuff like that. I need me an older woman. And a coworker says, well, but an older woman got with these kids, got a lot of needs, got to feed all them kids. And they discussed that with her being on welfare, that a man can't be there. And so he's looking at, like, what can the future be when it's complicated? Because unless he's willing to take care of all the kids and deal with that, then it complicates the finances are driving both of them, right? He ain't rich. She ain't rich. She's working on the side under the table or whatever you call it. And the kids still have to eat. So next we see the welfare social worker come to the house, or the caseworker, whatever she is. And basically, she's a white lady. And basically the whole deal is, she's at the door. Then they got to go around and they have to hide everything in the apartment that's, contraband. And, you can't have a toaster. You can't, just the stuff that's like basic appliances. They don't have anything that's really extravagant. But even the basic things you could have in your house, they don't want them to be able to have the benefit of.
You can't buy things, right? So it's kind of like today. Now, they're trying to take away the most simplest of things. Like you can't buy a candy bar with any benefits that's given to you in the same sort of a way, like what they're doing with, SNAP, food stamps.
You can't have anything that's quote junk food.
People's lives more miserable and give all that money to the big corporations who, running everything.
Yes.
Who gets all of the tax dollars to not pay taxes. That's crazy.
But the kids clearly know the routine, so they know how to hide everything. They put on a show, being extra nice. Claudine is putting on a show when this lady comes, because basically she's got to do the song and dance so she can maintain her benefits or whatever. And so the lady is like, well, have you been working? Claudine's like, no. And she's like, I'm your friend, but you got to be honest. You got to tell me. So now she's trying to manipulate to get her to admit to working. Like, look, lady, I know it's your job, but why do you care so much? Like, you acting like it's money up out your pocket in order for her to maybe be making a few dollars on the side.
She said no, just write down no.
Yeah, like, people like that annoy me. Why are you trying to, go above and beyond? The answer she gave was no. Anyway, that was pissing me off. So, and then she goes, I understand that you've had a man over here lately. Bruh. So that means you went and you've been talking to the neighbors?
Mm-hmm.
That's crazy. She's like, it's our business, and basically it's our business if you've been sleeping with a man. That's literally what the woman says. It's our business who you give your stuff to. And that's just crazy, and she does a thing that you pointed out in one of the previous videos, which is turning the question back on the woman. She's like, well, who's at your house? Who's buying you things? Who do you see
the whole
how that
HuffPost
feels?
R. Kelly thing.
Yes, the HuffPost R. Kelly thing that we talked about when he turned the question about what he, the woman asked about what he'd been doing back onto her. Oh, do you go to parties? Do you get drunk? Are you, wilding out? And so, see, when that same intrusiveness is turned on to other people, they clearly understand that is too far to have gone. By the way, the other video where we mentioned that is our discussion of Enemy of the State, which was an amazing video that we did, which also did not receive enough views. I'm going to link it in the description. Flop. It was a huge flop. It didn't make no sense. And that was a good movie from back in the day. And we talk all about basically the surveillance state and how it predicted so much stuff, because that movie was from 1998 and here we are in 2026 and a lot of that stuff came true. So anyway, back to Claudine. So this woman is trying to justify just getting too far into the business. Like, who you sleeping with is not, you can't justify that they deserve to know that. So anyway, later Claudine catches Charlene, that's her eldest daughter, getting dropped off and coming home late. She was with Teddy, also known as Abdullah. So he was teaching me how to meet people and hold my liquor. That's what Charlene said she'd been doing. She said he was trying. I just love the way they talked. And the way she spoke, the actress who portrayed her, it was amazing. She said, Abdullah was teaching me how to meet people and hold my liquor.
He was teaching me how to meet people and hold my liquor.
She was clearly drunk and she's sick now. And Charlene basically goes into the bathroom because now she's sick, and her mama, Claudine, helps her, and she's throwing up in the toilet or whatever. And this is like one of the saddest scenes in the film to me, because Charlene is like, I'm not, she says she's nothing. I'm nothing.
I'm nothing. That's what I am.
And she's like, I don't have nothing. And then she just breaks down crying.
I don't know nothing. I don't have nothing. I'm nothing.
Because this is a young girl who recognizes that the world is bigger than the little box she's living in. And she doesn't have enough. She wants more. She sees the more that she can have. But, she's got a mother who is a decent woman who is just trying to work hard. But she can't give her all of these things that Charlene is seeing out in the world that she wants. And it's sad. And Claudine tells her, look, be careful, because if you can make one mistake and pay a heavy price. Now, what is she telling you in this moment? She's trying to tell you, look, you're going out here with Abdullah, you're getting drunk, and the next thing you know, you're not in control of your faculties the same way. I'm reading into all of this, that you can get pregnant like this. And yes, in this moment, pregnancy feels like the worst thing that can happen, because it's one more mouth to feed when you already don't have enough. And that is the perspective that Claudine is bringing to the table. And her daughter, Charlene, sees it firsthand, how the mother is struggling. But her daughter asks, hey, do you love Rupert? Because they're laying in the bed later. And she said, I stopped using that word, talking about the word love, because, and then she explains, like, look, love is when a man brings in the groceries. Love is, and so
this is where we went off track.
And she starts naming things that are not like these emotion-based swooning type of things. She's like, love, but see, to me, love is all of those things, right? Love is the dedication, it's all of that.
So that would assume the same position as the lady from the government, right? Who is like, so if a man is there, then it must be love that is providing, because a man is required or assumed to be providing these things for a woman if she's there too. So you're basically saying the same thing that other lady is telling you. Right. So, but there can't be love, right? So from the perspective of the film, because the system isn't even allowing him to do these things. So then the man and a woman, black man and woman, or poor man and woman, can't really love each other, which is exactly the position they want you to have, and which has happened with materialism in the world that we live in now.
Right.
That people have these perspectives.
Right. Fast forward the generations, right? You look at this movie came out in 1974. Then you figure anybody born in that time frame would have been around Gen X. They have kids 20 years later. So now we're dealing with the adult children, maybe the young adult to 20 to 30-year-old children of people who were born in this time frame, and seeing what that has added up to. And we talk about the whole idea of love and relationships and how that has evolved or devolved, if you ask me, in a lot of ways,
And they're outright saying that, they want money up front. But not mentioning love, but yeah, still.
So, but we do see that Claudine continues to spend time with Rupert, and she's conflicted because she wants to be with her kids and she also wants to be with him, but they can't be in the same place at the same time because of the circumstances, because it's going to mess up her ability to support her children. And quite frankly, he ain't had enough money to support all 6 of her kids and her, with her not being able to work. And, if they were to even, let's say it evolved to marriage, at this point in the film, like, that would mess up the money scenario, and they're all barely making it to begin with. Yeah. So she talks about not being able to win against welfare, Mr. Welfare. And she's like, you get a job, you cheating. You don't feed the kids, it's neglect. You stay home, you're lazy. Like, it is a lose situation. Except if you just stay in the one little box and never, go anything beyond that.
Well, no, then that's just the lazy, right? Or not make enough and be on, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's no way.
So, and then, of course, we just got to be reminded of the soundtrack of all of these different songs. There's even a song with Claudine's name in it in the movie. And I miss the time where soundtracks could be written or were written for movies. Like the songs were made for that movie. I think back this was much later film, but I think about Boomerang, and how the Boomerang soundtrack, like all of those songs, are Waiting to Exhale. All of those songs were written for the movie soundtrack, and like, can we bring that back? But I don't know. There's no they don't seem to want to, really, except movies that have the songs in them as a real part of the movie, not just part of like the score or some montage. So Rupert starts modeling daddy behavior to Claudine's kids, which I think is just kind of natural to do. You see a kid and you're there, they're there, and you start talking to them, but one of Claudine's sons says that he wants to be invisible, and he, has his whole thing about wanting to be invisible. So we start to get insight into how each of her children is affected by the circumstance. So it's not like they're, that the welfare and the accommodations that she's assisted with are actually allowing her children to be happy and thrive. They all had an issue or more than one issue and a struggle with the circumstance, and are just like, oh yeah, live with that. But the system looks at it like, look at you, you got it good. And if you are not a member on Axiom.app, Patreon, or YouTube, you are missing out on over 100 exclusive members only videos, plus other perks like early access to some videos, your name listed as a contributor in videos, and more. So join today for as little as $5 a month. It is a great way to support the channel. The link's in the description. And then the other son is outside. He's shooting dice, not the eldest one, but he outside shooting dice. He don't want to go back to school. All this is going on.
Who
So
can't make no money at school?
Yep. And Roop goes out there and he starts playing dice with them. And I thought that was interesting and I was like, why he gonna play dice with him? But he plays dice and he takes all the money. He wins. And so I think that I like the fact that Roop understood that he couldn't lecture that kid into listening to him.
Yeah.
He had to show him, I can beat you at this game. You think you good at dice. I'm even better. I beat you at the dice. I took your money. And then I gave the money back to you, how much you had lost, Almost. Yeah. So meanwhile.
But he was trying to teach a lesson also in that, you're smart, mathematics, you know what I'm saying? Maybe that's just more communicating to the audience.
Yeah.
Look how smart you are. You can do all this math in your head. So you should be in school because you could. But see, to me, that's kind of counter, because if he does it, you're good at math, then maybe you don't necessarily need school.
If I can do it without school, why I need school? Like those logics can go, multiple different ways. So meanwhile, they're looking for Charles. That's the oldest son. And he's out in the streets being an activist. And he talks about wanting things to change and feel like, he wants to feel like a real human being. So he's old enough to be making the connections between the system and the suffering life that they are leading. So the social worker winds up coming over while Roop is there. And Claudine tells him to hide. And then at one point, he goes and hides in the bathroom or whatever. But then at one point, he walks like he's going to try to move to the closet. And I'm like, bro, you knew you were going to get caught. So like, what were you trying to do in that moment? Not that I'm blaming him, because the social worker shouldn't be scrutinizing to that point. But that caused the problem with her situation. So the social worker sees him and she's like, well, give me your name. And he gives a fake name, talking about his name is Simpson X. And he confronts her and he asks, why are you worried about who the mother is sleeping with? And she's like, I'm only doing my job. So mind you, before she had this whole long explanation as to why she had a right to know who the mother was sleeping with. But now she says to him, I'm only doing my job, And then the welfare lady is like, we would love to see you all married and all of this and that. And then let me tell you, Rupert speaks his mind, his sober mind, which really hurts Claudine in this moment. He's like, it would take the government off the hook and put me on, and then Claudine is just like looking at him like, I can't believe you just literally said that. And then Rupert, leaves out of the house. And so,
yeah, but see, I think that's understandable if we look at the entire context of what's going on. Like I said, a decade from the Civil Rights Bill, you had all this stuff that America was doing to black people. And now, instead of give reparations, you want to just put a black man who's a garbage man on the hook. On the hook, because you haven't paid what is owed to our people, not even giving the men the money that could possibly be owed to the black population in America.
Yeah. And so later when they discuss it, Claudine and Roop, they argue about her trying to put him on welfare. And he's like, I don't want to do it. By putting him on welfare, like giving his information to the welfare system, he's like, I don't want to do it, because it's just like crazy situations. And but he does agree, because he loves her by now. He agrees to go to the welfare office and find out what's up. So this is where we see Roxy Roker as one of the welfare caseworkers or whatever, some supervisor at the welfare. So when they go to the office, they want a whole bunch of paperwork filled out, and they're discussing like basically what would the consequences be if they got married. And they're like, well, there'll be deductions from her benefits if he marries her and he contributes, and how much will he contribute? And the bottom line of it is what they seem to have what they tell you that they're trying to do is make sure that the man isn't coming into the situation simply trying to be another mouth to feed and live off. So they want to see that his contribution to the household is enough to take care of himself in that household. And it's based on whatever calculations, and who knows where those come from. But, the calculations to basically make it like the man is not also a drag on the system. But yet he asked like, hey, what happens if I lose my job? And they're like, well, then you would have to be on welfare. And then, he was like, I don't want to be on welfare. So then you also have this whole thing, and it triggers him because you also have this whole thing where there's the stigma of needing assistance and what that means and what it means to his manhood and that I ain't going to be on welfare. And you even see that today with people and the stigma of any type of assistance that they may need here or there.
Right. So especially like, a couple years ago, people would, be on TikTok and stuff, and they talking about, oh, I had to go and get, SNAP and this and that, and they're cutting it, and I've never had to get welfare or anything. They always state that as if it's something to be ashamed of or it's a stain on your rep.
And I'm like, so what if you had to be on it at some point? So what? So what? But it is the fact that we live in a society that makes it like if you are privileged, that you earned that privilege. And we know that that's some BS because people are born into privilege. People are lucky into privilege. And there are people who work their way into privilege sometimes too. But the point is that the people who are in poverty didn't cause their poverty. If you're born into it, how did you cause that? But yet we somehow credit the people who have and then discredit the people who have not as if they caused their circumstance. And that's part of what leads to the shame of the need. So, but they decide at the end of the day, with they go to the office and all of that, and they're just like, look, they leave frustrated and they decide, look, we just gonna get married regardless.
So I wonder, because, I wasn't around then, how much of the workings of the welfare system were true that's depicted in this film.
Go to the comments, y'all, if you're old enough and maybe...
Not no speculation or I think, that's true because I just think it's true, like someone who really knows.
Yeah, I would like to know as well, because I think that those anecdotal experiences that you all may have had can help us to have a better picture of how accurate this was. But it seems reasonable, but then again, I don't know, but it seems reasonable. Like what they depicted seems, it could have been worse. We don't know.
Mm-hmm.
So they, they've decided that they're going to get married regardless of all this paperwork and the consequence to the, to the welfare situation. And they're about to announce to the kids that they're going to get married. And then somebody comes up and Rupert is served with papers about willful neglect of his kids.
Bruh.
And now...
Because he done went down.
But you said it's because he went to the welfare office. I never put that together as the reason why all of a sudden he's in trouble. Because did he give all his information to them or not?
I don't know.
Y'all go to the comments.
But they probably still know who he is. If they know you've been seeing somebody, they by now know who
But see, isn't welfare so that's not the federal government that's keeping the local paperwork, and his kids weren't even in the state. So like, are they working in the cahoots with the people from the other state? Y'all go to the comments and tell me, like, make this make sense for me. But yeah. But what we do know is that they have begun to garnish his check for $69.
Bruh.
And he's like, I can't live off of this. Now, at the time that this happened, I had I guess I would call a gut reaction. And you had a gut reaction that was in a different, we kind of we had to stop and talk for a second, because he's like, I can't live off of this. I was like, no, no, duh, basically. How you think she feels? Yeah. But see, and then worse yet, I was like, how did the mother of your children, you got 3 kids out here that you've been not paying for this whole time. And in a way, I felt like, well, how much empathy should my empathy go to the one who has to take care of the kids, or the man who is struggling and living his life out there, just you buying buckets of chicken and trying to get laid with women.
Yeah.
And ain't
Latte
sent no,
factor argument.
well, I should say, and I was started to say ain't sent no money to your kids, but actually he says he had been sending some money or presumably what he could, but yeah.
Yeah, but the fact of the matter is he can't afford it.
Yeah, that's
right?
true.
So, to live separately and then send what someone supposedly believes or what is actually required for your children to live is just not possible a lot of the times. And that's just a matter of fact.
And this is, I guess, from the outside looking in, and this is certainly not a lecture to anybody who, turned out to be a single parent. But when I look at it, I'm like, in today's world, you can barely make it as a person with no children and you're single on one salary. And okay, maybe you could get a little bit of bump ahead if you get with somebody and it's 2 salaries and you all can combine your living expenses, etc. But then when you have children, who you have children with is like such a critical thing in terms of whether they will help. But the reality is some things are outside of your control. Yeah. You can't always control how much money you're going to make at any given time. You can't control that you got laid off. You can't control all of these things about bringing in money. But if you were living together as a one unit, it's 2 people living separate is a lot more expensive than 2 people living together with their family.
But see, also too, if the women get the children, as we see in this film, and we know in real life, then you get the benefits from the government, right? That's subsidizing, and then you possibly able to at least pay for housing and all that stuff. But then the man doesn't get that, and he works and he doesn't have enough, barely making it, and then they take the money out, and he really can't make it because it's going to the people with the children who can now take care of the children, right? With that money. So then the guy, he's in that position. Now I can't pay for my car, have to sell it, can't get to work, or can't pay for my housing. And then it's just a downward spiral to then the kid not getting any money anymore because the dude can't even work or he goes to jail, falling behind and all kind of stuff. Like, so, yeah.
Yeah, like the whole thing is just messed up.
When it should be a society where, hey, look, these kids need something. These people, women, men, whoever, here you go. Everybody live all right, at least to a minimum level.
Everybody should have the ability to make a living wage. If you can't make a living wage, if you can't work, if you have some circumstances, you shouldn't be like doomed to live a life of poverty because you have some other circumstance, and that's just generally how I feel. I'm just, I feel bad that there are people who, through sometimes no fault of their own, sometimes a decision you made when you were 16 has affected your life in such a way. And then I know some of y'all saying that's why you should listen. That's why you should. But you know what?
Infantile.
The main thing is y'all wasn't listening at 16.
Right.
Y'all, this is.
And it's something I thought of recently, right? So when he was in the closet, right, and trying to hide in the closet, it brought up this recent case of the guy who's hiding under the bed where you had a 13-year-old and people talking about a 13-year-old don't know no better or whatever, but a 13-year-old in these situations is said to should have made better choices.
Right.
Right. So there is not being applied across the board.
Right. A young girl who goes out and, quote, gets herself pregnant. No girl gets herself pregnant. Right. It takes somebody else to do it with them, And
right. So these are children making decisions. Even the boy who may be 15 or 16 has a kid, and then it's like, he should have been taking care of that kid. Well,
what are you going to do at that age?
Yeah,
you can't even
take care of him, and you
can't take care of yourself.
Right. And we say that the person of that age can't even make decisions for themselves. So their decision to have the kid, do we just say, but for that they can, but if it's another crime, then they should be able to know better. The only time it's not better is in a sexual situation, maybe.
Yeah. We are very inconsistent with how we apply what adulthood is, who are adults, who can
and
think,
what decisions
whose brain is
developed.
developed. And ultimately, I feel like we always fall on a side, and I say we as just a society, fall on the side of just wanting to punish people for what we think is wrong. Oh, we think it's wrong that you were a teen parent. You should be punished. You should have to suffer. You should have to, and I hate that attitude. That's just, it's so unevolved.
Yeah. And the whole now, so, okay, you had kids when you were 16. The girl didn't have a choice, but then by the time you're 24, then you should know better and have more and start paying. Also is a thing, which
because
there is nuance.
It's complicated. Yeah, like you said, it's nuanced because it is complicated.
And before y'all jump to it, I ain't got no kids that I ain't paying for. So
what about you? It is complicated.
Well, I don't have kids that I'm not with too at the same time.
And it's complicated.
Yeah,
because you can feel how you feel about situations, but other people, it's easy to say one thing when you're living a different life over here, when certain challenges weren't your challenge, when, and
everybody think they have it the worst.
And sometimes when you were just lucky, if you were out there as a teen having premarital sex, you could have gotten pregnant.
Yeah.
It could have been you. It just was not you. You just wasn't, your card wasn't pulled. But it could have been. And so stop acting like the person who got caught up is more wrong than you, who was doing the same thing. But I also, like you said, but the flip side of the nuance of it is this too. Too many men are out here not being with the kids that they made, willing to make more kids, willing to just lay up and do whatever.
That's where Claudine was though too. Right? 4 men. He had 2 women.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So.
Yeah. So there was some, if you want to use the word guilt there, but especially for Rupert, because you wound up falling in love with a woman, seeing the flip side of the crap you dealt to other women. And maybe that's why.
Was it crap dealt? He was married to the women and then.
No, he was married to one and he had a kid with at least one other kid outside of that. Well, maybe not outside, but unmarried. Yeah.
I'm going to assume, I don't know if this is right, that they shacked up.
They probably had a relationship based on how he
seemed. So
he
was with these women and then it didn't work out and that's why he's not there.
Right. And he may have moved out of state for work.
We like to say, even if a woman leaves the man, we like to say he left his kids. When sometimes the woman is choosing to separate the kids in essence.
I agree with you on, and that's part of a nuanced conversation too. Right. That's part of a nuanced conversation too. But I'll also say my response to that is the leaving isn't just the physical. The leaving is pretending and acting like you don't have kids. Because there is nothing about the way Rupert was operating that would have made you think that he had kids somewhere.
He was sending money. But they were states away too.
Yeah, so, they were states away. But okay, I know you got to do what you got to do to make the money so you can survive, so you can have money to send back. Like, there's all of these things. But it just feels like in a lot of situations, men are comfortable when it doesn't work out with the women for whatever reason. If he left her, she left him, whatever.
Because the women have physical custody of the kids. We've seen it happen the other way too.
But what I'm saying is that they're comfortable with.
We see it.
Yeah, I've seen it happen the other way too, where some
it's
women
just
are
that
doing
it's
some
most
stuff.
Common that woman maintains the custody of the kids because that's just how the society is set up and run, and who physically birthed the kids. But if let's just say they broke up and it was just default that the man gets the kids, you're going to see a lot more that the women aren't doing what we say men aren't doing.
And let me just be clear too. There are situations, I don't mean just situations of single motherhood within the confines of, public assistance. I'm talking about the women who are, who I know who, have graduate degrees and are single mothers, and what I'm saying is the men who they've been with also seem comfortable to just not do. And they have it. They just don't feel an obligation in the same way. And I don't know why that is.
Because you're not there all the day. The women get more of those so-called grace because they have the kid. You're not gonna go drop them off to to the fire department. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So you're obligated.
Most of them are not going
right?
to.
Just like Rupert would be obligated if they got married, right? You're obligated to do this stuff and provide because you have the kids.
Now, there is something I do want to ask because I remember, I believe it or not, at some point I was a teen. And I remember the fear of how would I support and take care of myself if I, wound up as a teen mother, or what would happen. And one of the things that I did observe in some interactions that I had with some of my friends, and then even since then, getting older, is just that because people understood that there are resources for the women and not nearly for the men, because the women are the ones who typically have custody of the children, the sheer, oh my God, my life is ruined kind of fear is in a lot of people just not existent. Right? And it's a way to get on your feet.
Which is the conversation we don't want to have publicly.
Oh God,
right?
we definitely don't want to have that publicly. Y'all, and I know some of y'all understand what I'm saying, because I was, I look and I'm like, damn, I've seen people make a really damn smooth transition.
Yeah. You move out your mama house, or wherever you're at. And Yeah. So.
Yeah. And it's just like, well, okay.
But this is what's wrapped up in every conversation, because so many people or couples aren't staying together. And that's kind of been a discussion for the years, especially after this film, is that this system was set up that way so that we have the Ruperts and the Claudines.
But even if it wasn't set up like that, I don't know. Are we too far gone? And I say that because it's not just the system anymore. It's the decision. It is the idea that, women don't have to.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that's a bad thing, believe me, because there are a lot of things women used to have to put up with when we didn't have our own money and we didn't have our own autonomy, that we never should have had to put up with.
The government is going to provide for us to be fragmented.
And unfortunately,
and like not the altruistic thing of everyone should be provided for. It's for these specific situations. But even and to make your life miserable with that.
Even that is coming to an end. And this is what I'll say if things continue on the trajectory we're on, because we have seen the tightening of the belt as generations have gone on with subsidies, with any type of what they like to label as entitlements, anything for people who are not rich. We've seen that stuff trickle away and go away. And it would not surprise me, just like how when they cut the insurances and the cutting SNAP and they're cutting, there are children right now who are hungry because it's summertime. It's, July of 2026 right now. And they're not at school to be able to have meals that they normally would have had. And like, was it Mississippi or Louisiana? One of them states, and they're both the same in a lot of cases, but where the governor refused the assistance so that some of the children who normally would have been able to get to get summer lunches, to have a stipend, they refused the government money. It wasn't going to be money out of the state's pocket at all. But they refused government money so that the children who were hungry could be fed. That's the most trifling thing I have heard of in a long time. But so this is the direction. So if your ideas of life are kind of predicated upon being able to utilize, just much in the same way as other things have changed, like, maybe you used to be able to max out student loans in certain ways and they changing all the rules. Like, look, the middle class, the people who are in poverty, stuff is about to get even harder for all of us. And I think we need to understand that that's the direction we're moving in, unless there's some serious intervention. Anyhow, back to Claudine. So Rupert has been served with papers. And he says he can't live off of this and whatever. And Rupert is mad. And he's mad about it. And he's like, bitches. I was like, Rupert. So the court has ordered, him, the court order came because it was for non-support of his kids. But he was paying something, but the court says what he was paying was not enough. So the court acknowledged that he was paying something. So this isn't the case where it's like, oh, I've been paying the baby mama and she filed on me anyway. Because, we see all of that happen, as well.
Has anybody had their wages garnished? Because that happened to me.
Yeah, I've had my wages garnished. Not for child support, obviously.
Yeah, not for that.
But, for other debts. And you get that check.
They don't tell you nothing. You just look like,
your
what is
job
this?
already know you going to be short, but they don't say nothing. HR already knows because they done been contacted. They don't even get they don't get involved. You don't know nothing. You just get that check and you're like, okay, ooh, it's payday. I'm about to go. And then you look at that check. Ooh, wee. Yeah, it's not a good feeling. It's not a good feeling. And so I say all of the things I've said, understanding that is not a good feeling, and yeah. So anyway, he's pouting, Roop is walking around mad, got an attitude with everybody, got an attitude. He's being mean to Claudine and stuff. He's pouting and he's talking about running away from his responsibilities. And she's arguing with him like, look, you can't do this. Then, and they have just become kind of almost the antithesis of each other, right? And she says, when he talk about, well, I'm just going to run away. I'm going to just go over here and give me a new, give me another
He's
job.
doing like what people say, I'm going to go over here, change my name.
That's what and see, back in the day, this is still the 70s. This is before everything was electronic and back then, maybe you could hide a little bit. Today, you ain't gonna be able to get away with much of nothing. And she's like, they gonna find your ass because of Social Security, right? And so she's trying to talk sense into him. And he's like, how am I going to pay all of that money? And, I was saying, my note to myself in this moment was like, he ain't never really had no real pressure other than just the pressure of being a black man in America, which is already a whole lot of pressure. But he hasn't had the same pressure of not being able to make it,
He was comfortable though, right?
He was just comfortable.
He had his car, fancy car. He had a house, you know what I'm saying? But Claudine,
he was in an apartment with rats and prostitutes.
He had, pressure of, hey, I don't have enough to eat. I don't have time,
Kids,
and all that stuff. Yeah.
Think about it. She had the pressure, even if she had enough money, you still got to juggle taking care of all the kids and their needs. And she just never got a break. Meanwhile, her kids, though, Claudine's kids are making him Father's Day gifts. Oh, because they still want to announce that they're getting married to everybody. And I did feel sad for Rupert when he started crying, because Rupert did actually start literally a grown man crying. A big macho grown black man was like, I don't have enough to live. And that's sad. That was the part that made me be like, but damn, Rupert, So they throw this Father's Day party for Rupert. And he never shows up. And it's a big party. People have come over. Bruh. Hey, let me eat, let me drink. And
why was it Father's Day party though? Like you said, he ain't so-called taking care of his kids.
Because they wanted to make him the new daddy.
That's crazy.
They wanted to make him the new daddy.
But look, the thing is, it was a party for him, but it was other men at the party. Like, that just part of the movie was kind of strange.
But it also talks to the idea of the redemption of, well, maybe I wasn't a father to my own children, but I came over here to these kids that I don't have a biological relationship with, and I fathered them as best I could.
Twice as many kids.
Twice as many. But there's that. So he doesn't show up for the party. Everybody is disappointed. Claudine is disappointed. The kids are disappointed, but they encourage Claudine to call Roop. But Roop's phone is disconnected.
Boy, I can't pay that bill.
That's what you said, Roop. Nah, Roop done pulled up stakes and said, "Yeah, we out of here." And so Charles rubs it in and it was like, that's the oldest son. I knew he'd leave. And he's like, it's your fault too, because you got 6 kids. You one of the 6 kids. Talking about it's your fault.
Yeah, well.
And I'm like, bruh.
The ghost of Kevin Samuels.
Oh, pre Kevin Samuels. It's crazy. So Charles tells her, so Charles and his mother get into it and everything too, because, he's smelling himself, as they say, trying to become a man. She's trying to corral him and guide him in a direction that's going to lead him to some level of, at least self-sustenance and prosperity in life. But, he's rebellious because that's what you do at that age. And he's like, well, why you so busy trying to do whatever? Take a look at Charlene's titties because she pregnant. And then, it's like, dang, if anything else could go wrong for Claudine in this moment. So she goes and she looks at Charlene's breasts because she's in her night clothes. And do you know that Claudine beat that girl with a brush? She just lost it and beat her with a hairbrush. And then she hugs her after it. Cause I think it was like she just unloaded on her. I done lost my man. I done did this. I was trying to keep you.
I'm going to take it out on you.
Doing the same thing I did. But you don't believe fat meat is greasy. And you done now went and in her mind got yourself pregnant. Even though we knew it took two. Cause Abdullah was the one over there who talked her out.
She did it to herself.
She did it to herself and he did it too. And it was probably the night he was teaching her how to hold her liquor. Do they still say that today, y'all? Is that a thing?
Teach somebody to hold, bro. Just get on out of here.
But what's funny is I vaguely remember some type of early 80s references to holding your liquor being a skill. Y'all go to the comments.
I know people still say
hold
that
my liquor.
in a way, but teaching somebody to hold their liquor, come on.
You can't hold your liquor. Anyway, so, so they come down and, Charlene she's like, well, Charlene, how are you going to manage? How you going to manage, baby? And she's like, well, we going to get married. And she's like, okay, but you get married. You already only make one salary between the two of you. Then when you have your baby, you're going to be on half a salary. How he going to take care of you? Whatever. So.
Well, that one salary is really half a salary.
Already,
and then if y'all
exactly.
both work, then you got one salary, but.
And then you get a half a salary again when you got to be off with the baby, right? When he's the only one working.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. So so Claudine is on the bus again, talking to the women on the bus about men and, they're all sharing their war stories. Now, mind you, this is the same women who was like, you need some D. So to be very clear, the message is, listen, the reason you got headaches and stuff is because you ain't getting the D. But at the same time, these women were talking about how, well, he left and, I'm glad he's not here. I'm glad he gone. I don't want no man, So literally the same women giving these two seemingly conflicted messages that now when you look at where we are today in 2026, you realize that this is what that looks like.
Yeah. They wasn't telling her to go and get a man. They was telling her to go get the D.
Yeah. And get the D and pull up stakes, girl. And that's what you need to do. But
girl, hold up. Cheri be watching these shorts or these reels, and this one lady was talking about, what I'm gonna do is, I'll pay for a date with a man, but then at the end of the night, I need the D. Like, you're not winning that. Like, good. From a man's perspective, right?
Yeah. She was like, date stands for D at the end, and all this and that. And I was just like,
what man who would go on a date with you would be like, oh man, I got a smash at the end?
He gonna be like, she gonna pay.
And you paid for everything.
There's no strings attached.
Bruh.
A certain kind of man gonna really like that. Or a man at a certain place in his life.
Every man wanted at the end. Why is he even on a date?
Well, we got to go somewhere.
Yeah, I know. You ain't got to pay nothing.
So we have that extreme. Charlene is having a baby. Charlene's brother, Charles, done went and had a vasectomy, so he won't have any babies.
Who paid for that?
He been soldier. They probably gave it free because, let me see. Can I snip a black man?
Yeah.
So, of course, they like, for you, normally it costs $500, but for you.
The dual sword of Planned Parenthood.
So, but and he's trying to justify it because basically, Charles is laid up in the house, and Claudine comes. It's like, what's going on with you? Why you laying here? And he admits that he had a vasectomy, so he won't have any children. So his response is, I don't want kids because I see what my mama done went through. He also sees, even though he didn't really like Rupert like that, he sees how Rupert got caught up. He don't want that result either. And my guess is that he's not going to opt for abstinence because he still want to get him some. And he does not going to opt for any kind of self-control. So he just said, listen, if I'm shooting blanks, then.
Exactly. So which comes to the moral question, where it always comes up. It's like, if you can't afford them, then don't have kids, which just relegates it to say, if you're poor, you just can't have kids, and then you're back on your whole eugenics sort of a cycle
foolishness
that only the well-off should be able to have kids.
now as a thing to have kids. Now, when you choose to have so many children that you cause your children to suffer, to me that's like a different proposition.
Yeah, but what if the first one will suffer because you don't have anything?
Well,
right. So
yeah, that's a tough question, because I feel like if you have one child to suffer, you suffer with the child, you're dead. There are things that they can still get, even if you don't have a lot of money, even if you have to struggle financially. There, you still have you. You have all of the non-monetary benefits that the child can have with you as the parent. But when you got 10 kids and you can't financially take care of them, and you don't have enough time, children require time and attention. And if you got to have the other ones raise the other, like, to me, I have feelings about that.
But I don't think this vasectomy was about spending time with the kids.
No, the vasectomy was, I don't want to get caught up about the capitalist. Yes, that's exactly what I think it was about for Charles.
Yeah.
So,
and I think that's mostly the argument when people are talking about who shouldn't be allowed to have kids, right?
Mm-hmm.
Don't have kids if you can't take care of them. They're really not talking about how much time
they only mean financially, because you can, as long as you paying the bills, you could talk crazy to your kids. You can not spend time with them. Listen, as long as you are paying your child support, you have met the requirements of the law. You don't have to see your child a day ever.
Yeah, but not necessarily about the law. You know what I'm saying? I don't think they're looking at the law. They're looking at, you ain't got enough to take care of them, so don't have them. Or don't have another, right?
It's tough.
That same sort of thing is showing these economic times where pretty much people are choosing not to, which is the premise of idiocracy too, in a sense.
And we'll be covering that very, very soon. Yeah. So Charles, though, after he talked to his mama and, admits that he done had this vasectomy, he goes to find Roop, because nobody can find where Roop is. Roop is at the bar drinking, and there's a choir from the church at the bar. This is the weirdest thing. And the choir is singing at the bar with folk drinking liquor. But anyway, Charles goes to the bar to try to get Rupert, and Charles fights Rupert. And, Rupert is basically also like, what can I give her? Nothing. So Rupert is frustrated because he's in love with Claudine. He would do whatever he could for Claudine, but he don't have the money. He can't give Claudine what Claudine needs. Forget what she even might want. He can't take care of her. And before they had made the decision, hey, we're going to get married. So what? To hell with the consequences from welfare. I'll take care of you. Now he can't even take care of her. He can't have what he wants on any front. So, and also Charles is hurting too. And Charles and Rupert wind up hugging. And, they hug until they cry. So Rupert shows back up at Claudine's house in his convertible. And he talks to the kids. And, you realize that Rupert really loves these children now, because they are Claudine's children. And he loves Claudine, and he loves them too. Like, in the most purest way, right? That I've fallen in love with my place that I can be the daddy in this family, and I love this woman.
But that's the whole proximity thing. If he was around his kids every day in Ohio, then,
yeah,
he would have the same attachment.
But the kids say to him, all the daddies say that they love you, and then they don't come around. And but he says, Rupert says, and he explains, what you don't understand is that from the daddy's perspective, if you don't have money, you don't come around, because they need the money, and you can't deal with basically seeing the need and not being able to meet it as a real man.
What movie was this I just watched that was kind of like this? Let me check my letterbox.
Do y'all use Letterboxd? That's a way to know all the movies you've ever seen. And Heit is very diligent about, clicking that he saw this movie on Letterboxd. I have an account, but I am not diligent about it. And so it doesn't have even a fraction of a big fraction of all the movies I've seen. So we find out also, though, so basically Rupert has returned. He wants to be with her. Claudine still love him. They're going to be together. And they're going to get married. And the day of their wedding, they're going to get married at their apartment or at Claudine's apartment. And the day that they're going to get married, Charles is out having a clash with the police in the protests. And their chant is work, not welfare. Work, not welfare. So they won't work.
Wait.
They don't want welfare.
Did Roop show up because he needed a place to stay? Because this is one of those things that happens now too, right?
Don't do
the women
it.
have kids, and then they're able to, get the housing and all that, and then he'll come a man who can't afford to stay,
On his own.
On his own. So then he just weasel his way in, or legitimately gets his way into being able to live over there.
Y'all go to the comments. Did Roop come back because he needed a place to stay? But see, Roop had said he was leaving, and I think that maybe his coming back was to say, okay, I'm not going to leave.
That's easy to say. You still need money to leave, bro.
And he might have drunk up a good portion of it sitting over there drinking all that liquor at the place.
He ain't sold that car.
So Charles is out there, though, fighting with the police. And as he's trying to run from the police as part of this whole protest that he was involved in, why he runs home, comes in the back door, brings the police all up and through the house in the middle of Rupert and Claudine's wedding. But they do actually get married. Like, they are able to complete the marriage and everything. But then in the process, the police start manhandling folks inside. Roop winds up hitting one of the police officers. And it's just a big melee. At the end of the day, Roop gets put in a paddy wagon. Everybody's getting arrested.
Something like this happened to me. A while ago, I was at home. Knock on the door, doom, doom, doom. I look, it's lights, police lights, you know what I'm saying? And then, that's all I'm going to say.
And by a while ago, we mean decades.
Yeah.
But like, this wasn't last week. Is that why y'all didn't put a video up last week? No. But anyhow, yeah. And so that's what happens. And so at the end, but what we realize is that he's willing to fight on behalf of Charles. So Charles is like his son. And in the end, everybody gets carted out. And Claudine is not getting taken to jail, but she's like, I'm going to the paddy wagon with my husband. And then all the kids get up on the paddy wagon. They run after the paddy wagon as it's pulled off. And everybody as a family, we all going to jail together. And this is basically how it ends. And then after that, as the credits are about to roll, we see them walking together as this blended family, just like in the beginning when we saw Claudine by herself with her 6 kids. Now Claudine, Roop, her husband, and the new daddy to the 6 kids. And by the way, the kids also did say that Charles and Charlene were going to be moving out. Charlene going to have her new baby, and Charles is going to go someplace else. So there would only be 4 kids who were home with Roop and Claudine needing to be raised.
My God, a terrible way to end this masterpiece.
Why? How should it have ended?
I don't know, but running from the cops, they show up, bust through. And
I did think that was a little weird, like the chaos of it. But I guess they wanted to have a way that we understood that Roop was opting to be the daddy for real.
And patching it up with Charles.
So maybe that was an easy way.
Maybe I'm just stupid. So somebody go to the comments and explain the ending to me.
Maybe I'm just stupid. You know what? It wouldn't be the first time that folk have felt that way, that we were stupid. So we're open to your comments, your respectful comments in the comment about, the video. And I know we talked about a whole bunch of stuff, and somebody inevitably is going to comment on this and say, an hour and a half long video on an hour and a half video, I might as well go watch the movie. Well, we hope you did watch the movie.
Exactly. And the final word, and make it shorter than the length of the word.
Define what?
Any word.
I don't even understand what
All
you
right.
mean.
Define, what is a house?
A house is a structure that
That's longer than the word house.
So, with one word, a home. I don't know.
It's not possible. When you're explaining something, it's inevitably going to be longer than a thing.
Oh, okay, that's what you were doing. Listen, I had zoned out for a second. Like, wait a minute, where are we? Maybe I am stupid. But at any rate, yeah, I feel you. I mean, that's the thing. You no matter what it is, you're going to be talking about it, and in your discussion maybe that longer. You know, I understand this isn't for everybody, and that's cool too. Some of y'all don't like the tangents. That's cool too. But you all have spoken. The tribe has spoken and said, you better not cut out y'all's tangents. We like hearing the stories, and so we will continue telling the stories that we tell as we discuss these films. I also want to thank the co-executive producers of this video, King James, Makila H., and Kelvin Pollard, who helped us to be able to talk about the 1974 film Claudine. And if you guys want to just brush up and see Claudine, like a lot of these movies, and thanks for whoever put us up on this in the comments previously, but a lot of these movies are on YouTube, and you can watch them with ads on YouTube. And I feel like Claudine is on YouTube with ads.
A lot of them on Tubi too.
And Tubi, yeah. So, you know, if you just want to brush up and watch it again, feel free. This is a great film. I liked this film a lot.
If you made it this far, type "hold my liquor" in the comments so we'll know you're one of the real ones who stick around to the end.
And be sure to check out one of the videos that's on the screen right now. And also be sure to visit axiom.app, where you'll find all of the recent videos in one place with links to them back on YouTube so that you can watch them here.